first interview.
Basically, if one person draws Wild Growth and the other doesn't, it's almost game over. But fortunately, both players have Wild Growth in their opening hand, so it's going to be a fairly even game.
So it's gonna be fun, is what we're saying. Because when you're in like Innervate Town and only one guy has a Wild Growth, it's pretty tough. It's actually nearly unrecoverable for the player who doesn't have it.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun match because, as we can see from the hands, both players are running different types of druids. Gaara is running Piloted Shredder, Spectral Knights, and Karen. That probably means he's going to be running more of a faster druid, whereas RDU is running Kel'Thuzad. And wow, he draws a Force of Nature. That's something we really don't see often, running Kel'Thuzad and Force of Nature in the same deck.
Alright, I think I'm either frozen or something happened here.
Okay, I'm still in the game, so I'll just keep continuing. Wow, RDU wrathed his opponent's Piloted Shredder, and his opponent got a Captain's Parrot. Unfortunately, exactly not what he wanted. Probably the worst drop. Pretty much the worst, along with Novice Engineer. Gaara answers back with a Spectral Knight. RDU has some choices now, but we have a possible Druid of the Claw that's weak to Black Knight, or he can Azure Drake, but I feel like he has to go for the risk and possibly get Black Knighted because Azure Drake just trades way too, not very well at all against a Spectral Knight. Noxious, are you back?
Yes, I am, at least vocally. I don't know if my camera's seen. I can't see the game at the moment, so I'm gonna have to rejoin the call again.
Alright, sure. RDU, again, has a lot of choices. He could kill off the Spectral Knight, trade it off a 4-2 for a 4-2, and then have the Ancient of Lore to answer the Cairn. And he sets it up so that the Ancient of Lore will be able to trade directly with the Cairn, and the next turn he'll be able to silence it as well. So Cairn basically will not have the Death Rattle next turn if all things go according to plan. Gaara, turn 7, he has a Dr. Boom in hand. What else is he going to play? I think Gaara right now is just considering if he's going to Dr. Boom and then Innervate out a Wrath on the
for the card draw?
Of Lore. Yeah, for card draw. Just so the 5/5 won't trade as well against the Cairn.
At this point, has he seen enough stuff to know that he's up against a Tone Druid? Or at least a much more heavy, heavily defensive one. I don't think he's seen enough of that.
I don't think so. He's pretty much only seen Druid of the Claw and Wrath and Ancient of Lore.
That is not nearly enough information.
Oh man. Both players have Black Knight, but I feel like the Black Knight is going to be a lot more valuable for Gaara as the faster Druid. Especially because he has board control now, and he has a Dr. Boom against RDU who doesn't have a big game hunter.
I mean, a swipe top deck here would be pretty good here for Gaara at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, no swipe was to be found.
Yeah, and this engine will just fall down to the Black Knight. Do you even bother with that, or do you just sacrifice or attack with the... Okay, yeah, he's going to try to maintain as much initiative as he can by using Black Knight. Just try to press his advantage.
I think that's definitely the correct play. Also because Gaara doesn't know whether his opponent is a Taunt Druid or not. The Senjin is not indicative of anything because a lot of combo Druids also run Senjin. So yeah.
I mean, at this point, no big game hunters in hand, no swipes to reset this board to an acceptable position. How do you go about dealing with this board? Do you have to Force of Nature? What's on the board? You're guaranteed to take 11 damage as retaliation from the Black Knight and other sources. I mean, this is such a terrible turn.
Yeah, RDU, he's playing Druid, so once he gets back on... once he falls behind on board, there's basically very little way to come back. Gaara's really surprised at his opponent's play. He's like, oh, such a weak turn? Do I just win now?
I think he does, actually. If we look at what he's got, he got? He's got a total of 15... Yeah, he's got lethal, I think, with Keeper of the Grove. Exact lethal, in fact. Unless I'm mistaken, which I probably am. No, actually, I was not mistaken. Yay! Alright, so that's
good job.
Pretty good value. Yeah, I calculated this super quick, but I do that, like, 99% of the time it doesn't work. So the 1% of the time it does, it's impressive. To myself, at least. All right, so that'll be game. That's well, the nature of snowballing druids against druids. Sometimes when the board control goes away, there's just no way for you to swing back, and there's no whiplash mechanic really. You know, like
Yeah,
there's no way for just come
Yeah.
back.
There's no brawl, there's no equality consecrate.
Mhm.
Druid just plays minions, hope they trade well, and if they don't, then oh well. Just write that one off and go to the next class.
Yeah, it's kind of the way that it works because, as you said earlier, it's a very honest class in that you know what's coming. At every turn, you have a vague idea of what's going to be falling down next. So there's really there's no surprise there. So they can't ever. Oh, I mean, sometimes they might. Somebody might tech some really fancy, Poison Seed Starfall, but that's so unlikely to help the turns where they need it, which is very much earlier than that. That you're generally not going to get surprised by much of the tech that they'll have.
Yeah. RDU not able to come back from that, so he'll have to go to his next classes, either mage or paladin.
Mage.
You think mage?
Well, it depends. I don't know. He hasn't seen combo.
He hasn't seen
Does he-
combo, but the cards.
I mean, then again, it's so awful.
Yeah, in the cards in Gaara's deck, he saw a Spectral Knight, he saw a Pilot Shredder. That
Yeah.
definitely indicates, oh, he has combo in his deck.
You can't actually just go mage against druid anyway most of the time because they can just burst your first block out of nowhere if they get a correct draw. How do you stop once they start? If they ramp, let's say off of wild growth, and they manage to put down yetis and then follow up with 5 drops, 6 drops on curve, you can wipe the board. But all it takes is a Keeper of the Grove, to deny a Doomsayer, and then you'll need a second one to just keep going. So Paladin gives you the ability to equality and wipe the board multiple times if need be. So,
Okay, we're getting word that RDU will be picking Paladin as his next
Yep.
class. And I'm going to guess that the Paladin is going to be slightly faster Paladin. There's slower Paladins tend to not be very popular. And the only player that actually uses slower Paladins these days is Savitz. He's pretty known for using like the Hot Form Paladin because Hot Form invented it. A player relatively unknown named Hot Form. It's pretty much has 2 lay on hands and has piloted Sky Golems. No knife jugglers, no zombie chows, just curves very high.
yeah,
but,
it's super
everyone
turtle.
else-
Yeah.
Everyone else pretty much uses zombie chows, knife jugglers, and they try to take control of the board very quickly at first, which is very important against Druid.
I remember the name of the deck when I first saw it was I think Purple Turtle, which I think might have been a modification of Hot Form's deck by Purple Drank, which was basically that you just turtle all game long and you heal up and you fatigue them essentially. You just wait until your minions, which are high value, just obliterate. I think you run Kel'Thuzad in that deck, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, Kel'Thuzad
that's
is
the
definitely
one.
in the deck.
Yeah, definitely in that deck. So that's the one I'm thinking about. Savitz is a very defensive player, though. I don't remember last time I saw him play an aggressive deck outside of like the old Hunters, which were the most aggressive decks that I've seen him play.
All right, the game's starting up right now. And we're going to see, indeed, RDU is running Knife Juggler, so that's indicative of a faster Paladin deck.
Yep. Yeah, Muster for Battle, I mean, Knife Juggler has gone up in value since the advent of Implosion and Muster for Battle. It's been seen a lot more. It was already played in multiple decks, but now Paladin uses it as well, which is... It was kind of unheard of. It was played in very, very hyper-aggressive, but nothing... I mean, this is kind of a mid-range approach to Knife Juggler plays.
Yeah, an excellent hand for RDU right now. He has a Knife Juggler. That Zombie Chow is a bit too late. But he has the Knife Juggler, he has the Muster, he has Zombie Chow, he has Piloted Shredder. It's all curving out also well.
Yeah, and it's also interesting, I mean, if the Zombie Chow had fallen turn 1, this would have been obviously a bit better for the Paladin, but he can still curve pretty well on turn 3 here with Zombie Chow and the Hero Power. Alright, there's no
Okay.
Innervate nor Wild Growth on the Druid's part, though.
Yeah. RDU decides to go for Zombie Chow instead of Muster for Battle. Just overall slightly stronger play and overall a little less weak to Harrison Jones later on from the Druid. And 4 drop for RDU, pretty nice.
Oh, wow. Alright, so now these are the turns where the Druid starts actually applying counter pressure. This is the point where this starts, but the 2 True Silver Champions are going to make sure, with True Silver Champion, that he can trade optimally with a lot of stuff for a little while.
Yeah, True Silver Champion is definitely one of the key cards in this matchup. Not only is it able to clear Druid minions really effectively, but you also heal a bit. in the process, so it doesn't hurt as much. It doesn't. It allows you to trade without bringing you down your health too low, so that you're weak to combo.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm guessing he's running at least one lay on hands in there, or at least one anti-heal bot, which is fairly common nowadays.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like in these type of decks, I believe anti-heal bot isn't as common because they're slightly faster druids.
Another druid with a paladin, that is. You mean?
Sorry.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, this 2-drop couldn't have been worse.
I mean, it's only fair. Gaara got a captain's parrot last turn or last game, so RDU gets one this game, I guess.
Okay, I missed that. I must have been disconnecting hard. Alright, so he plays Lothar to be able to trade into something like a Sludge Belcher, I'm assuming, or...
Well, he did
at
see
least Karen or Sylvanas. Yeah,
game,
there we go.
so this works out very well.
Yeah, this is a very nice play. If he plays Silences, this could be a nice turn to top deck them. Nope, none of that.
Dr. Boom. Hey, turn 7, Dr. Boom, why not?
Yeah, I mean, the prerequisite was met, 7 mana has been reached, so now Dr. Boom has all the reasons to be played. And there's no swipe currently in Gaara's hand, but nonetheless, his hand is quite strong. There's no BGH for the tech, though, to kill the Dr. Boom.
Gaara has a few decent options, especially because the Innervate is in his hand right now.
Yeah, it opens up his range.
He could either go for Scenarius or something with a Sylvanas.
I don't know. Scenarius feels a bit weak considering Consecration hasn't been played yet. You assume that there might be one in his hand at this point. And unless you're buffing up Cairn, which would be one of the weirdest plays you could make at this point, I feel, it's probably not very optimal. So there's going to be a lot of damage taking here.
Sylvanas puts a bit of pressure on the board, but you can't really follow up with anything else if you play Sylvanas. You can kind of like Sylvanas Innervate Hero Power, maybe?
Yeah, well, it would have to be something along those lines to reduce some of the bad RNG that might occur. Or you just play Keeper of the Grove, Pilot Shredder. It's just one of those really weird turns where there's nothing you do that really feels good. So Gaara goes and tries to set up some kind of lethal with Savage Roar next turn, forcing his opponent to play somewhat defensively.
Yeah, he's hoping his opponent does. He realizes that there's no way he's going to be able to clear his opponent's board right now. It's just way too strong. So he has to go for the offensive hopes. He has to hope.
This is a good game, I believe. Yep.
That's it. With the True Silver Champion, it's definitely a good game.
Yep.
I think we've seen this 2 games in a row where Dr. Boom was played on turn 7.
And the game was over.
Yeah, the opponent had no answer, so Dr. Boom did 9 damage the next turn.
Yeah, that's exactly that's generally what happens when you don't have the immediate answer, which is the reason so many people have been running, you know, MC Tech and BGH in their decks, because they're tech cards that can be used against stuff like Ragnaros and whatnot, but now that they're getting rotated out as a result of people starting to play Kel'Thuzad and actually we haven't seen Foe Reaper at all, disappointingly, ever. That's one of the cards that I'm still waiting to see in action at some point. But BGH is getting phased out, and as a result, Dr. Boom, when it falls on turn 7, is just even a bigger threat nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, there is a trend to put creatures in your deck that aren't weak to BGH, so Foe Reaper could be one of those cards. I mean, I have seen Foe Reaper actually, not in competitive play, but on the ladder in Druid decks sometimes.
In Druid, it can be somewhat nice. Yeah, I played it in Druid a little bit, but it's just not... I mean, it feels like you're playing a bad KT at that point, and I would not run both. I feel like they're just not useful together at that point.
I mean, you have KT, you have Sneed's Old Shredder, and you even have Ysera in that spot. So all those cards kind of fulfill somewhat similar purposes. They're just big legendaries that are very threatening and they're not weak to BGH.
Yep.
But you can only choose like 2 or 3 of them at max, and Foe Reaper is just kind of the odd one out.
Yeah, I guess if you had the same ability at a lower mana cost with a smaller body, maybe people would be interested in playing him as an 8-drop. Considering the competition up there, it's really rough. It's like Gruul just not getting played at all.
We got word that Gaara will be picking Shaman for his next deck. It'll be the best Shaman.
Yeah, Gaara best Shaman. I remember him from World of Warcraft back in the days. I think he was playing a lot of 2v2. That's where I remember his name from, back when I played a lot of War Arena. It's a pretty old name. I was surprised when it was actually him. I asked him, WCA, if he was the player who used to play World of Warcraft, and it was.
Yeah. Gaara, even though his name is Gaara Best Shaman, he hasn't been using Shaman lately, and I believe he hasn't used it at all post GVG. But yesterday I was watching Dog stream, and Dog was actually streaming some Shaman. He got pretty high. He topped out at rank 4 on EU, and Gaara was in the chat watching with us. So I believe,
Really?
yeah, I believe Gaara will derive some inspiration from that and probably be running a similar deck.
Yeah, well, I hope so because I like Shaman. Although, I mean, it's obviously a class right now that is running into a bit of problems. Not, you know, overly so, but it's not exactly the best at the moment. And it's seeing less and less play, as it's a counter decks that are not necessarily overplayed at the moment.
Oh my god, both these hands are amazing.
Yeah, I don't even know which one I think is better. I think Paladin by a tiny margin because of the coin, actually.
Well, also,
yeah,
I think this Power Mace is just going to get so much work done.
yeah, with Cog Hammer as well.
Oh my god, this is going to be a Mech Shaman. We see a Noyotron.
With Arcane Nullifiers, they run typically, you know, a Noyotron, Arcane Nullifiers, sometimes Piloted Shredder, very often. Like one Anti-Kill Bot and possibly Harvest Golems. It's a really nice archetype. Really do like that one.
Yeah, I feel like these days Piloted Shredder is slightly more common if you're running Mech Shaman, just because it's a tiny bit more threatening. And if you're running a Noyotron, that kind of fulfills your quota for taunts, your Mech taunts especially. So you don't necessarily need to run a Noyotron plus Arcane Nullifier.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I don't know how frequent it is at when people deck build. So here, like, you're obviously, I mean, he's thinking about rock biting the zombie chow, but how? Like, we know that it would probably be an okay play due to the fact that there's a Cog Hammer that could come down, but he doesn't know the Cog Hammer is being played right now by RDU. He has not seen it last game, so does he have to assume that it's there because Knife Jugglers were there?
Yeah, Coghammer is just not that popular. I mean, it's kind of in about 50% of Paladin decks, but it's a 50-50. And also, even if Coghammer is in a Paladin deck, I've never seen a Paladin deck run 2 Coghammers. So it's not really something you consider that much usually.
Yeah, which is why this Rockbiter play I think was really interesting. He wants to maintain board advantage and uses Power Mace as removal for follow-up plays, which right now is going to prove to be a really good play.
Well, I think the biggest issue was that the Noyotron would have traded way too poorly into his opponent's Zombie Chow. So he didn't go for that play instead. And now Gaara has some board control, and he has the Power Mason in his hand right now. He'll be able to buff one of his mechs next turn.
There's multiple options for RDU here, but I mean, double Knife Juggler is actually a cute play, not a very effective one, unfortunately.
It's super YOLO.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just you throw your hand on the board and you hope that it does something. But Cog Hammers, like, stand alone is also not that appealing. So do you just, you know, play True Silver Champion and prepare?
I feel like Cog Hammer might be okay simply because you're against a Shaman, and he's always gonna have totems on the field, and you're gonna be able to use you're gonna be able to essentially use your Stormforged Axe and able to clear totems.
Yeah, okay, so he apparently goes for the coin and probably just a hero power. Because I don't think he'll play 2 Knife Jugglers on this board. Alright. He gambles a little bit, and the gamble pays off. And okay, well, suddenly the ball is back in the... Wow.
2 Noyotrons?
This guy's deck is crazy.
I guess you're gonna build your own mini Sunwalker.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to. It's a pretty decent board, though, for Gaara. Unfortunately, there's a True Silver Champion to kill that buff right off.
Perfect response.
Yeah, this has been a really interesting game as far as, you know, perfect responses. The Rock Fighter against Zombie Chow. It was a 50-50 for the Knife Juggler to hit. So if that had gone differently, though, the outcome might have been very different.
Yeah, Gaara decided not to play both the Noyotrons last turn just because he didn't really have a turn 5 play, and Healbot isn't that good. So he wanted to space it out, get as much totem value out as possible.
So there's the Neptulon right now in Gaara's hand, which I feel as the turn 7 play is going to allow him to replenish his hand, which is right now very, you know, dry, because Anti-Killbot is mostly a card you want to play later in the game. Same with BGH when, you know, there's an actual reason to play it. So there's really no... Oh, wow. Ouch.
That's perfect.
That can't feel good.
And we're seeing one of the problems with Shaman right now It's that Shaman doesn't really have a lot of natural card draw. It basically they have Mana Tide totems and that's it. And you're often going to be running Azure Drake or Gnomish Inventor
Yeah.
for card draw. Not the best, but you got to do with what you got to do. You have to use what you have to work with. Neptulon also pseudo card draw, especially if you draw Cold Light Oracle off of it though.
I have no time for games.
Noxious, are you there? All right, Noxious is having a bit of technical issues, so let's see. Sylvanas comes on the board. It really contests this Neptulon. And oh wow, Gaara top decks something really good. Hex, it answers the Sylvanas really well, but I think he's thinking right now, do I want to use this Hex right now? Because Tyrion is coming up possibly. Paladin is going on to turn 8. And Tyrion is just about the most threatening thing possible coming from Shaman. But then again, Sylvanas also very threatening. If Sylvanas somehow steals your Neptulon, I guess it wouldn't be the end of the world simply because you have a BGH also in your hand. Neptulon is such a funny card. Draw 4 Murlocs. Okay, Hex actually does go down on the field. And okay, a Murloc. The Murlocs you can get are really varied sometimes. Like some of them help you draw cards, some of them buff each other. Some of them just are just charge minions that can end the game. Oh, a Quartermaster is drawn from RDU. He can use this combo, Muster for Battle plus Quartermaster, and maybe just hope that his opponent doesn't have a Lightning Storm. That play is going to be really dangerous simply because it's a lot of resources and it's pretty much all RDU has in his hand right now. A Quality Knife Juggler, Hammer, not the best of cards right now. They're not really that high quality. Another option is just go for the Muster and play Hero Power, play it slow, test to see if your opponent has a Lightning Storm. But no, RDU just goes for it. He says, well, if you have it, then you have it. And if you don't, I guess I win the game. Oh man, Gaara gets such good RNG. He gets the Spell Power Totem, and a Lightning Storm will be coming down. RDU is like, oh, what am I doing with my life? And even the 4 damage on the Black Knight. We saw Gaara was at one time a few turns ago. He was kind of running out of cards, but right now he has all the cards in the world thanks to the Neptulon. And he's cleared his opponent's board thanks to the Lightning Storm. He's thinking, which of these Murlocs should I put down? Which of these Murgles? The Murlocs actually have really good synergy in Shaman just because Shaman just has a lot of tiny minions on the board at all times, and then your opponent usually just has to clear them with Consecrate with random AoEs. And then your opponent clears your board once, clears your board twice, and then he thinks, okay, you don't have any more minions left. But then you play Neptulon, get all your Murlocs, and then you have a third wave of tiny minions that your opponent can't clear at all. RDU's a little desperate right now. He gets a perfect Knife Juggler though, and Gaara seems a bit exasperated. Okay, Alex Straza, that's interesting. Players these days, they're trying to either go all in on 8 attack minions or 7 attack minions or more, or they're trying to run none at all. And because Gaara is running Neptulon and probably Dr. Boom, he's probably thinking that, oh, I just might as well go YOLO, run as many 7 attack minions as possible. And why not run Alex Straza then? In fact, because he has Alex Straza and Neptulon, I wouldn't be surprised if he had Ragnaros in this deck at all. Gaara's just deciding, is it worth it to play this Murloc? I mean, if the Murloc survives, which it almost certainly won't, because there's a Light's Justice on the board, and there's a Knife Juggler on the board, and there's
All right,
Silver
I'm back.
Crude on the board. Hello, Noxious. Welcome back.
Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a glitch there. I'm not sure exactly what happened. The connection just went completely AWOL on me. That being said, the Shaman is still in the game?
I mean, the Shaman has come back really well.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm actually impressed. I don't know what happened.
Well, what
What did
happened
he
was there was a muster for battle into Quartermaster, but Gaara got the Spell Power Totem and a Lightning Storm off, so it was just incredible value. Exactly what he needed to come back.
Yeah, just like that Knife Juggler Zombie Chow earlier, so I guess that percentage of rolling something good had to be positive for him at some point during the game. It's kind of a compensation, I guess, for losing the Zombie Chow. Alright, well, that's still a pretty good position, though, for the Paladin, although his card advantage is...
Dwindling, I'd say.
Yeah, dwindling quite substantially, because the Black Knight is going to be able to deal with that taunted up Knife Juggler.
Oh, that's funny. Black Knight killing a Knife Juggler. I
Yeah,
never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's really worth it. There's still... He hasn't found a Hex yet that I've seen personally, so...
Well, there was a Hex on Sylvanas a few turns ago.
Okay, so that means there's one left in the deck for potential late game Tyrion.
And there's also possibly some Earth Shocks left. We're not really sure if Gaara is running Earth Shocks. Now, as much as I was saying that Shaman doesn't typically have a lot of card draw, Paladins also run into the same problem. Usually with these kind of fast Paladin decks, they only have one lay on hand and possibly either a Cult Master or an Acolyte. So RDU with 3 cards in his hand right now, it's probably going to be around that number for the rest of the game unless he draws into one of those cards. Noxious having a few problems once again. Gaara has a lot of options right now, but they're all slightly awkward. It's mainly that the Lotheb is contesting the Black Knight so much, and there's no way for Gaara to deal 1 damage easily to the Lotheb. I mean, he could do 3 damage to it with the Power Mace. I guess that's acceptable. Another option is to try to use Cold Light Oracle to draw cards for both players, but I don't think he wants to do that right now, simply because he knows that the Paladin doesn't have many card draw options, and he doesn't want to give his opponent this card draw as well. He'd rather have both players have around the hand sizes they have now, rather than increase both players' hands by 2 each. Gaara rolls a nice Taunt Totem. Unfortunately, it's gonna die to the Cog Hammer, but he also puts down the Manatide Totem, which forces his opponent to either clear the Manatide or the Black Knight next turn, and that's gonna be a very difficult decision. Another option is just to Ironbeak Owl the Manatide, and that's also acceptable, I guess. You see that Gaara has drawn Fire Elemental. That's one of the key cards. Not just in this matchup, but in general as Shaman, because it's such a good creature, such a value creature, and it's such a big minion on the board. Unfortunately, Gaara doesn't have a Lightning Storm right now. That would be just perfect, but he has so many totems on the board that this Flame Tongue totem will get really good value. I think Gaara actually messed up a bit here. If he placed the Flame Tongue totem on the left, he would be able to clear everything out and leave the Manatide totem alive. Yeah, if he placed it slightly better, then he would have an 0-1 Manatide totem. Okay, I guess this is it. Ardu's maybe one chance to come back is if he musters for battle and quartermasters, but equality to clear something sounds pretty good as well. This Flame Tongue Totem represents at least 4 attack, which you can get rid of. And if his opponent has an Alakir as well, it's even more than 4 attack. So I like this play a lot, actually. Muster for battle and quartermaster and equality. You give up your whole hand, but it's the strongest board possible against relative to your opponent's board. Again, Gaara with so many options, but none of them can deal that well with the opponent's board. I'd say Gaara definitely wants to get value out of this power mace this turn. He's definitely going to want to clear one of these silver hand recruits, and to fully utilize the death rattle, he'll probably throw out the harvest golem as well. He really wants to use the rest of his mana, but he probably doesn't want to use the Cold Light Oracle at all. Again, he just doesn't want to give his opponent's cards. And wow, Gaara makes this play going straight for face. That's interesting. Oh, Zombie Chow top deck from RDU. Definitely not what he wanted to see. Gaara with that Alexstrasza play is basically saying, I know you can't deal with my Alexstrasza without trading everything into the board, and trading everything to the board is exactly what he does. Pretty good play from Gaara. Basically, by going offensive, you force your opponent to play defensive. And Gaara once again can play it slow just because his opponent doesn't have any cards. RDU basically needs to top deck either Tyrion or Leon hands right now, and that's not either one of them. There's 6 damage on the board. RDU's at 7 HP, so RDU doesn't think he's dead yet. But of course we know that there's a Flame Tongue Totem in hand for Gaara, and that's game. Gaara will take the 2-1 lead. All right, 2-1 lead for Gaara right now. And it's been a really back and forth game right now, back and forth match. Gaara with the 1-0, he started off 1-0 in the Druid Mirror. RDU came back with the Paladin, and then Gaara came back with the Paladin, or with the Shaman against the Paladin. What we have left for both players, RDU, I believe he only has his Mage left. And depending on what kind of Mage that he's going to bring to this tournament, it's going to be really weird to face off against the Shaman. Freeze Mage, I would say, is somewhat favored against the Shaman, simply because there's not that much healing from the Shaman. But then again, we saw anti-Keelbot and Alexstrasza from the Shaman player. So for a Shaman, that's actually quite a bit of healing. Oh, I believe Noxious might be coming back a bit soon.
Don't say that, you're gonna jinx me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So I don't even know what's happening. I've got suspicions, but hey, you know. Welcome
right.
to the online life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
all right.
alright,
So
it's alright.
who won the game? I need to know. I couldn't even see it.
All right,
Ugh.
the Shaman won the game. Gaara
Oh,
took
okay,
the
cool.
game
Interesting.
with he went like in the last final moments. He slammed an Alexstrasza on the board. Went offensive. RDU really couldn't deal with it well, and well, Gaara just won from there.
He ground him down by like little by little.
Yeah, basically RDU ran out of cards. It's pretty
Oh
much what
my
happened.
goodness.
We were seeing that Gaara was kind of running out of cards at one point, but then
Yeah.
the Neptulon brought him back into the game.
Yeah, that's what I thought it would do, but I mean the collateral also had like 2 extra cards there that might have helped. I don't know if you played it. Oh, I really hate having missed this game. That's one of the. I mean that Shaman Paladin game was really cool, but I'm gonna get to see the Shaman again, so that's no big loss, I guess. So RDU is gonna be picking one of his other 2 decks, I believe. Wait, does he have only 1 left? Because he lost his Druid and then he lost Valley, so there's Mage left. That's it.
RDU only has 1 deck left. You're right. And yeah, as I was saying, like what kind of mage is it gonna be? And my suspicion is that it's gonna be Mech Mage because
Really? From RDU?
yeah, because Tice, his teammate, also runs Mech Mage. But we're going into the game, so we'll find out very soon.
Yeah, I just expected RDU to love his Freeze Mage. I thought he was a really good Freeze Mage player.
Oh, well, you would be correct. It is Freeze Mage.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised by that coming from him. It's one of the decks I think he plays the best.
Oh, this is gonna be interesting. As I was saying before, like typically this matchup is favored for the mage player, but I think because RDU or Gaara runs anti-Keelbot and Alexstrasza, that could push it slightly towards the Shaman player.
The anti-heal bot is actually a really good point because I mean a lot of shamans have been trying to come back and be a little original with their deck building to make sure they could win in a metagame that's riddled with heavy control decks that aren't handlock. So Earthshock is a little less valuable, and in that regard, I feel like anti-heal bot helping them against Freeze Mage because Freeze Mage has come back to counter a lot of the stuff. So if they put anti-heal bot, it's pretty much mandatory to run it or some kind of massive healing to make sure you don't get Alexstrasza and die.
Yeah, I think the problem is that even though the Shaman runs Alexstrasza, I haven't seen any burst from the Shaman, which is really important against Freeze Mage. Like before, some types of Shaman were really favored against Freeze Mage because they ran something like Double Doomhammer, and Double Doomhammer, there's like just no way for Mage to block 16 points of damage coming from the Doomhammer.
Yeah, it's an insane amount, definitely. And there's also no Earthshock right now, and I don't know if he's played one last game. I don't remember seeing one while I was not completely disconnected. So that could be the case, that he cut them for something more, mech heavy, so to speak, which would mean that there's no exact Doomsayer counter in case the board gets wiped. It's pretty tough in that position.
You know, I also haven't seen Earthshocks from the Shaman deck. Oh.
Well, that's what I was saying, yeah. And there it is. He actually top decks one as we say that he doesn't run them. There we go. Getting proven wrong. Alright, so he's just going to ignore just try to go face as much as possible to get this mage down.
Very interesting plays.
How's Ancestry Skull Malagos against Freeze Mage?
I would think that's pretty good. I mean,
yeah, the massive burst in one turn, and then you guaranteed to pop the block. You don't even trigger ice barriers.
Oh, what's this? Oh, just
Mad
a Mad
Scientist Doomsayer turn. No Doomsayer? No Doomsayer.
I think that's fine.
So, do you Earthshock this, or do you keep the Earthshock for the Doomsayer? I'm guessing keeping it for Doomsayer must feel pretty tempting. But by killing it, the Mad Scientist with Earthshock, you're forcing him to have in his hand the response to your board, or the ice block that he wants.
Okay, so he's just gonna put more pressure on the board, I think, with the Fire Elemental.
Yeah, and that's overextending into Blizzard Flamestrike, and well, then again, he's not too worried about the Doomsayer, I guess. The thing is, I feel like putting Harrison Jones and Fire Elemental on the same board is like super risky, because after that, what's left for pressure if he wipes this?
Oh yeah, definitely. And in future turns, he's definitely hoping that he'll pull a Healing Totem sometime.
Yep.
And not only does he have to be scared of Blizzard, but there's always this very unassuming Explosive Sheep.
Oh, wow. You know what? Against Shaman, this is arguably probably one of his best plays right now. Like, it's an awkwardly good play. But Blizzarding is going to be probably the first step, I'm assuming, or...
Yeah, Blizzard looks pretty good right now. I mean, if he goes for the Explosive Sheep, okay. What's this?
So is he trying to bait an Earthshock on the Explosive Sheep so that Doomsayer can come out after with Blizzard on turn 8 because it'll be exactly on curve and Shaman has to have the Hex or second Earthshock?
Yeah, that's a very heads-up play, thinking pretty far ahead into the next turn.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what he's trying to do. He gets the Earth Shock out of the way for the Doomsayer.
All right,
But look at the
look
amount
at
of damage. This is.
that.
Oh.
Did you see RDU nodding his head? He's like, "Yeah, I did
Yeah,
that. I forced it
yeah.
out."
You saw me, man. I planned this, but this is a lot of damage. And wow, RDU.
The funny thing is that oh wow, you have Thalnos Blizzard right now. That's for another option. I think that's even better.
That's even better. That's actually even better because it guarantees that even if he does wipe the board in a way, you're at least gonna get another card draw. And
Yep.
Doomsayer is much safer because you can't just hex it and
Yeah.
negate the play.
And we know from our perspective that that Gaara can actually clear the Doomsayer with his weapon,
Mhm.
with his Rockbiter and the Lightning Storm. I mean, it's a lot of resources, but
Yeah, but why not play Blood Mage here? Is there a reason? Is there the argument? Is it that Alex Straza and then you need Blood Mage for some kind of Fireball, Frostbolt, Icelands combination? A 1-2 punch with Blood Mage?
yeah, I think that's possible. If RDU doesn't play Blood Mage right now, that's probably his line of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Wow. He's got to be counting his cards at this point. What's making you smile? I see you smile on the camera. Nobody else does, but...
Oh man, Doomsayer.
Yeah.
That's gonna get wrecked. Oh man.
Oh, that is so unfortunate. Then again, another AoE top deck would solve the problem, right?
Mhm.
So do you play an Oiotron and attack the Doomsayer? I mean, hex the Doomsayer and attack the Doomsayer, or do you attack face and leave the hex up and storm it later?
I think you can hex it, but you don't necessarily need to
Kill the
attack into it.
frog.
Yeah, it seems a bit wasteful to use a 3 damage weapon to kill a 1 health frog, basically.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
but
I don't think you necessarily need to buff an Oiltron right now because it has Divine Shield. It'll probably live through 1 AOE.
well, it'll get pinged before Flame Strike, if anything.
That's true. But he'll probably ping the Sludge Belcher instead, right? I like this play. And then hold.
And then he is hoping that he finds an AoE, and if he doesn't... Okay, so do you put your opponent on 15 health right now? I mean, your choices are fairly limited, right? Like, if you top deck the other Ice Block, you could still win.
I think putting your opponent at 15 health right now is the winning play.
Yeah, anything else is just trying to stall for no reason, really.
It doesn't look that great right now for the mage player, but at least this gives him a few outs.
And if he does find Ice Block off the top, he could even Blood Mage, ping Blood Mage, and just try to find the Ice Block that way. There's so many ways for him to do that. And then if he does get the second Ice Block, then then Pyroblast will finish the game.
As long as he gets an ice block up next turn somehow,
Yeah,
and maybe he uses like Fireball, put his opponent down to 9 HP, then Pyroblast wins the game.
exactly.
So basically, if he top decks Ice Block next turn, and his opponent doesn't top deck Healbot or Alex Straza, then he wins.
Yeah, that was the winning play for sure. He's just waiting for the top deck to hit. RDU just waiting, sitting with his hands back, behind his head.
He's like, all right, this game is not in my hands anymore.
Wait.
And-
No, that is not
I
it.
don't think so.
No, that's not it. That's only 11 damage with Blood Mage Thalnos. So
just
he has to
missing-
play Blood Mage and ping Blood Mage and
Yeah,
he has to hope. Okay, I have an idea. Blood Mage, Ice Lance face to 10. You ping Blood Mage, you pray for Ice Block. And that
Okay,
leaves you with
viable.
3 mana, and then next turn you win with Pyroblast. This is the only play that could maybe win.
Yeah, unfortunately, RDU didn't get Ice Block or Frostbolt. Either would have been really good.
Yeah.
Frostbolt
It would have been
cool,
lethal.
actually. Yeah.
So now he has to hope. He has to just Ice Lance, and no! Oh, goodness. RDU.
Nope.
But he didn't find what he needed anyway, so that wouldn't have changed anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I guess the only play here is Fireball to face or Ice Lance to face? Kill it yourself. Pull
I
it
think
heck up.
Iceland's SS is a lot more stylish. Man, Gaara's Shaman going to take the win here against the Mage, which... Oh, he's gonna go for Icelands. So, do you think the Blood Mage play was viable at all? I guess Blood Mage, Icelands, that's 4, 5, 6 from pinging the Blood Mage, then you get Ice Block and you win next turn from Pyro. That was like a 1 out of however many cards he's got of winning.
It is possible, definitely. But I think the
Yeah.
turning point of this game was when